Welcome to another headlight video. In today's video I'll do a little bit different video than my usual headlight repair video. In front of me I have a 2006 Ford Ranger headlights. As you can see on the passenger side headlight, I rated retrofitted by LED projectors. These are iLens V2, which have built-in drivers, so it's all nice and clean. And for shroud I use G37C-R shrouds. And in this video I'll show you guys step by step on how I retrofitted the projectors. And I'll show you right now the way the halogen, it's a lot it's not bad for a halogen, but it's not as bright as the LED. And then here's the light output of the projectors. It's much better, more evenly spread, as you can see, and that it has that nice blue light. All right, now it's time to take the headlights apart. And to take it apart, it uses permaseal, so we'll have to heat it up using your standard Harbor Freight heat gun. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be Harbor Freight, but any of those two-stage heat gun, first and high. I use the high stage for 10 minutes, go all the way around. Alright, the headlight is hot, careful. It's very hot, so I don't have gloves, but I recommend you use gloves. Using the flathead screwdriver to start on one side, the corner, don't go too deep. Let's see. See if we get there. There you go. Start on one side. Your goal is to let the one side edge loose from the others, from the it's hot. It's hot, so I can't really grab it, so I'm using this towel. Forgot my gloves in my other car. Flat plate scraper tool and start prying. That's it. The lens is apart from the housing, as you can see. Now the glue is left inside. We gotta clean this glue. Screwdriver, right out. And just remove it all the way around. The glue is all off. As you can see, it came out in chunks. That's pretty simple. And the grooves are all cleaned up. Now I'm ready to remove this little piece. Twisted it backwards. Remove the bulb. And it just pops out like that. Next, we'll remove this screw. That's what's holding the little shield in the front. And then the shield in the front just pops out. And it's out. Before we install this iLens 2.0 projector inside the headlight, we'll have to trim this little notch right here with the Dremel to make it flat. This projector right here, as you can see, is very compact. it will not work if you, the threaded shaft, it's the reflector inside the headlight is too shallow. If you look at it, it's not that deep. And if you put the projector in there, it'll stick out way beyond the lens does. So we'll have to cut an opening inside the reflector and push it all the way through to where the front lens clears it when it covers it. That's it. Nice and smooth, so it's not in the way. And then we take the projectors and install it. We'll use this as a reference where the projector should sit. Go on the other side fit the bolt, actually the nut, feed the nut through the wire. So the projector is mounted. Here's the reason why you can't use a threaded shaft. See how far it sticks out? And the lens will hit the projector front. But this is a good reference to aim them. If you look closely, the projector is parallel with this circle, so that means you know 100% sure that the projector is looking straight. Next, what we'll do, we'll align it so that if you look at the lines, there's parallel and vertical lines. Be careful, there's vertical lines, right? Your goal is to be 90 degrees to those vertical lines. 90 degrees, and that's how you know for sure it's gonna match. You can see the lines are put in vertical. That's how I align the vertical part. I mean, you can use a auto leveler, but I don't have it with me, so I end up using the box. And I do have a small one, auto leveler, so I measure, make sure it's in the middle, and do the same thing on top. Make sure it's in the middle, and it's not quite in the middle, as you can see. So what I do is I'll twist it a little bit. There you go. It was a little bit to the right on the floor too. If you put it on the floor, I mean on the table, you can see that it's a little bit to the right also. So that's fine if it's a little bit to the right on the projector itself. And yep, it's a little bit to the right. So that's perfect. Using 8/32 machine screws, I temporarily put them on, tightening them so that way that they're tight and holding against this bracket right here. While they're tight and holding against the bracket, they're aiming right where I need to drill. So I marked where I need to drill. The top ones are marked, and then the bottom ones I marked too, where they need to be drilled, as you can see. And that's how I marked the holes. The major part was to align it. Once aligned, it's easier to just put the screws on and mount them. They're a little short, but it doesn't matter because the projector is going to go all the way through, so they'll actually stick out, the screws. I used the combination of Dremel and the grinding tool to cut this whole piece. And then with these, I changed the nuts from regular nuts to a nylon nut, so that way they don't unscrew when while driving. And also, I marked the vertical line on the projector. This should align with the back end. I marked it here too. Should align with this line right here. It's barely noticeable because it's black and black. But anyway, it aligns like on these two. To control the projector how far it goes in, I use regular bolts, nuts. So what I do is I screw it on and say I want it to stop here. So I stop here, and then we'll install it and see how far that goes. Let's do both sides. Black and white. Let's see. About that looks right. Pull the projector through. Projector setting. As you can see how the bolts the reason why they're not nylon bolts, because I'm able to adjust them with the finger, and then to secure them I'll use JB Weld, but that's how I'm controlling the distance or the gap, more or less, like this. And to see if it's level, what I do is I aim them. I level them. This line right here is on this headlight is perfect up and down. So I use this line. I match this edge against that other end of edge like that, and then I test see if the projector needs to go up or down. And right now, looking at the projector right now, it looks perfect, spot on. So these screws are height-wise, the screws are good. Now left and right, I do the same thing. I use this line right here because this is a perfect flat circle, so I use the flat circle, and then I aim them. We got the top ones aligned. Now we gotta do the same thing with the bottom one. See how they're right in the air? So we'll put another bolt. We'll put a nut in there, so that way it rests on a nut. Otherwise, if I were to tighten it right now, it will bend this metal down, and I don't want to do that. Spin it on. Almost there. And then we stop here. Now, let's try it again. Okay, now, as you can see, all 4 bolts are hitting the back end. And now it looks much better. As you can see, there's enough, the projector says just perfect. Before it was a little bit still up, but now with the projectors. So this is how I install it, the inside part. Now if I'm outside, I just take screws, screw the nuts on. Once done, I'll cut the tips off these bolts. The projector is mounted. You can see it's nice and perfectly straight. The back end, I screwed on all the nuts. This line right here on the projector that I drew earlier on, it matches with the line on the bezel and the one on the bottom. The line is matching perfectly right here on the bottom, and they're here on the top. And that's how I know the projector is leveled rotation wise perfectly flat, by using these vertical lines and aligning the projector to those vertical lines. Next step will be mounting the shroud. The shroud consists of 2 pieces. This is the bottom piece, which if you see installing it, I need to trim the upper part. And I'm also, if you look at it, it's like a star, so I'm putting the star part on top and then the bottom one right here. Okay, the shroud looks something like this. So So I like the cool thing about the shroud that I like, the piece behind it. It lights up the around the projector when it's on. These plastic lights up, and through these holes they stick out. And this is how that looks from the front. To make it fit, I will have to grind this edge and then make it flat on the top. And this thing should fit after that. Oh, and also the depth. I will have to trim at least, looks like a 1/4 of an inch. Alright, using the Dremel. I'm using a 120 grit sandpaper. Actually, no, this is 80. And I'll need to trim the upper part, and the inside of the projector I need to trim the diameter, so that way the shroud goes over the projector. Otherwise the lens will not have enough clearance. So I need to sit this thing as far in as possible, and this thing right here is not allowing me to go in by say about 1/8 of an inch, and that's enough to clear the lens. So take the Dremel and start grinding. I'll show the finished part. After trimming and test fitting, I'm finally done with the shrouds. This is the inner shroud, the clear shroud. I had to trim the upper part and also the side to make it fit. For the outside shroud, the chrome shroud, I had to do the same thing, trim the top part and trim the side part to make it fit. And also to make it sit all the way flush, I trimmed the bottom part of the shroud also about a 1/4 of an inch to clear that 1/8 of an inch that was not clearing. Also the inside of the shroud, I trimmed down to make it sit all the way in. And also to make the inner shroud sit all the way in, I trimmed the inner diameter. I trimmed and fitted it around the projector so it sits around it instead of on it. There's a mark on the bottom. I marked it and I've put it on the headlight using the mark. The fitment is perfect. Next, I take the outside shroud, the chrome shroud, and fit it. It sits perfectly. There's no gaps. As you can see, the shroud sits perfectly flush with the reflector. For the most part, the shroud is done. The only thing is left to test it. So I'm installing right now the headlight lens cover. I'm gonna push it all the way in right now. And you see that it's not hitting the shroud. So the fitment so far is perfect. Everything is great. Now that we have the front cut to specs and ready to be glued, we gotta take care of the back end. As you can see, the back end is open to the elements, and if I keep it like this, it will condense and water will go inside and the headlight will be fogging up. So what I did is I took a reducer pipe from 4 inches to 3 and shaved it down like this, so that way it fits behind it. This thing takes a little bit while, so I didn't show it on the camera. And then to cover the back end of this piece, I used a cap, a plastic cap, and it measures like that, and it will be glued with JB Weld. Let's see. And then once the thing is in place, I'll tighten it with this nut which goes right here behind, and the wires go through it. So let's give it a test drive. I'll show you guys what I mean. So this thing goes like that. It matches perfectly. Fits the gap. Then we take this, fit it through the wire. Then we grab the fitting. Everything. So what I like about this bolt right here, for my purpose, it's designed to hold the projector in place, but for my purpose, it's holding this whole plastic piece in against the reflector. So that's good. Then now the only thing is left is to JB Weld inside and call it a day. So it's been 6 hours. JB Weld's been dried since then. The shroud just holding there for temporary. Let me remove the whole thing. And as you can see, you can see the JB Weld's holding that bolt in place. The same thing with this side and this side, and also the back end, all JB welded. The back end is JB welded too. If you look closely, I also sanded it. I sanded both parts. Let me focus. I sanded both the white plastics and the actual headlight, so that JB Weld will attach to the plastic much better when it's sanded down like that. Otherwise it could come apart and come loose. Now, with the back end sealed, the plug soldered, the only thing is left is to install the shrouds back in the headlights. And what I'll do, I'll install JB Weld around this projector, around the lens, and then I'll fit this thing inside. With the JB Weld still soft, install the shroud. Make sure the shroud's sitting flat. Everything's aligning. The upper part is flat. Look inside there. See how the shroud's sitting on the projector? You don't want any gaps, otherwise you won't be able to put the headlight lens cover back on. And now we'll wait roughly 6 minutes for it to tack on. So I like to have a batch on the side like this. And this is a 4 to 4. It sets in 6 minutes, what it says. So about 6 minutes from now, this will be hard enough to hold the shroud, but not hard enough to hold the, not enough to cure. So I'll have to wait 4 to 6 hours for the JB Weld to cure before I reseal it, because this JB Weld, I think it does fume or does not, I'm not sure, but I'll wait 4 to 6 hours like the instruction says behind it.